Well, good morning, everyone. I'm so glad to be here with you all. As we gather together this morning, let us remember that our church building stands on the traditional territory of the Iowa people who called themselves Pohote in their own language. For those of you who don't know, I'm Reverend Amy Petrie Shaw. My pronouns are they, them, theirs, and just welcome to this digital service. Kelly Patterson is today's celebrant. Barb Martin is going to be our song leader. And Bruce Martin is our pianist. A little bit of housekeeping before we go any further. Please keep your mics muted during the service. You're welcome to turn your cameras on, but please do make sure that everyone else at home knows that your camera is on. We are recording this service, which will be available on our main UCDSM Facebook page and our First Unitarian Church of Des Moines YouTube channel. And depending on technological glitches, we may or may not also be live streaming on the UCDSM main Facebook page. We are not live streaming on the UCDSM Facebook page at the moment. It's glitching. After the service, anyone who wants is welcome to stay around to turn your mic and your camera on, and we will have a virtual coffee hour. I will leave the room open for about an hour after service, so if you want to chat, you can do that. Coffee hour will not be recorded or live streamed. Today we are talking about expectations during these odd and stressful days when so many of us are either quarantined at home or moving cautiously between work and home with nowhere else to go except maybe a grocery run. And we're going to begin with something called Prayer for the Lamp Keeper. It's by Reverend Joe Cherry. It speaks directly to the heart of this, so listen and see what you think. Reverend Cherry writes, "My prayer for you today is that you understand that you cannot be and say everything. That you are a light, a lamp in the night to help people find their way, but you cannot be their way. Remember also that a steady lamp by which others may guide their own journey is a gift from and to the universe. Be steady, but do not deny your own humanity. Do not forget to take breaks. Do not let your desire to be that steward of that lamp keep you too long from your own journey. Share the burden, share the responsibility, share the honor with others. Let us be in community here together."
We are lighting this chalice with a reading called Prayer for Living Intention by Reverend Joe Cherry. If we have any hope of transforming the world and changing ourselves, we must be bold enough to move into our discomfort. We must be brave enough to be clumsy there, loving enough to forgive ourselves and others.
Go to their website if you want to see it.
May we, as a people of faith, be granted the strength to be so bold, so brave, and so loving. We light our chalice today in hope of that strength, that boldness, that bravery, and that love. Our gathering song today is number 360 in the gray hymnal. Here we have gathered. Of course, the words will be up on your screen. And once again, please keep your mics muted.
First, no, click on the name of the.
Here we have gathered side by side, sing on what to while we step inside. May all who work here find a kindly word. May all who speak love feel they have been heard. Sing now together this our heart's own song. Here we have gathered all to celebrate days of our lifetime that are small and great. We of all ages, women, children, men, infants and sages, sharing what we can. Sing now together this our heart's own song. Life has its battles, sorrows, and regrets, but in the shadows, let us not forget. We who are gathered know each other's pain, kindness and healing. As we give, we gain. Sing now in friendship this our heart's own song.
Just lift it up on top of it. I only need it for a second. Okay. Okay, that's what.
Welcome to the First Unitarian Church of Des Moines Digital Service. My name is Kelly Patterson. My pronouns are she, her, and hers, and I'm the celebrant for this morning's service. Whether you are with us for the day or here for a lifetime, we are glad that you have chosen to join us online. Everyone is welcome to join us for service, whether or not you live in Des Moines or have ever physically been at First Unitarian. Whoever you are, we hope that you find something here today to help you on your life's journey. Our Faith in Action partner for this month is Iowa Justice for Our Neighbors, Iowa JFON. Iowa JFON is a nonprofit organization welcoming low-income immigrants of all faiths into our churches and communities by providing free, high-quality immigration legal services, education, and advocacy. Iowa Justice for Our Neighbors has been serving low-income clients in our communities since 1999.
Lightly.
Established by the United Methodist Committee on Relief in 1999, Iowa JFON helps people from all over the world. Our services are available to all without regard to race, gender, or religion.
Our story for all ages this morning is going to be read by Greta Hayes, and I'm going to do the screen share. Greta and her mom recorded this for us so we could see Greta do this. So give me just a second. And if this goes awry, Bruce or Barb, please tell me immediately that this is not working.
There she is.
Before time was time, there was a great hill, and on the great hill there lived the Yolks. The Yolks spent their entire lives climbing the great hill trying to reach the top. Some Yolks climbed fast, some Yolks climbed so slowly. One Yolk in particular was a very slow climber. He was different than the rest of the Yolks. When he climbed, all the other Yolks passed him. It was hard for him to watch them pass by. He felt like the worst climber in the world. Some Yolks made fun of him as they passed, others didn't. Some Yolks wanted to help him climb, but he didn't let them. It was hard for him to climb. It was even harder when it rained because the ground got slippery. Sometimes it seemed like it was only raining on him, but it wasn't. There were times when he felt like he wasn't moving at all, but he was. But then one day he met another Yolk who climbed even slower than he did. He helped the slower Yolk climb. "Thank you," said the slower Yolk. "You're welcome," said the slower Yolk. "I can't be of much help of it to anyone since I climb so slowly." "Slowly?" asked the slower Yolk. "Well, yes, I watch other Yolks pass me all the time. I do not know if you are slow or fast, but I do know that you helped me and that you are still climbing." The slow Yolk said goodbye to the slower Yolk and kept climbing. Still climbing, he thought to himself. That is true. And he smiled. The Yolk kept climbing. He climbed when it was nice out, he climbed when it rained, and he even climbed when it snowed. As he kept climbing, he got better and better. Sometimes he would pass other Yolks, and sometimes they would pass him. And he stopped paying attention. He also noticed that some Yolks were no longer climbing. When a Yolk stops climbing, it stays where it is. Some Yolks stop climbing because they are happy how far they have gone. Others stop climbing because they don't want to climb anymore. The Yolks that had stopped climbing did not like to be passed, and it made it harder to get by. But the Yolk kept climbing right over them. There were still times when the Yolk thought he was climbing an impossible hill, but he kept climbing. Always climbing. Do you think he made it to the top?
Thank you so much, Greta and Chelsea, for recording that for us. Our offering words today are, of course, done with my usual gravity and grace. A minister and a taxi driver both died and went to heaven, and St. Peter was at the pearly gates waiting for them. "Come with me," said St. Peter to the taxi driver, and the driver did as he was told. He followed St. Peter to a mansion. Anything you could want, from a bowling alley to an Olympic-sized pool. "Wow, thank you," said the driver. Next, St. Peter led the minister to a rugged old shack with a bunk bed and a black and white TV. "Wait, I think you messed up," said the minister. "Shouldn't I be the one that gets the mansion? After all, I went to church every day, preached during the apocalypse, learned to use Zoom." "Yes, that's true," said St. Peter, "but you see, during your sermons, people slept. When the taxi driver drove, everyone prayed." So if you would like to support First Unitarian Des Moines, please go to our website at ucdsm.org. Click on Give on the top bar on the first page. And when the pull-down menu appears, click on Online Giving, and you can put any amount you want in the basket. You can also choose to make a repeating gift, so that I might continue to lull you to sleep on a weekly basis. The morning offering will now be given and received gratefully.
Amy, I'm not seeing Bruce or Kelly on the screen.
I've got you.
Okay.
They're both there. As a community of human hands and human hearts, it's hard to be together digitally. We want to hug one another, be present with one another.
Things along the bottom to see what's what.
We are here to minister and to witness to one another as best as we can as we struggle with life's challenges. We especially hold in love today anyone who is grieving or heavy-hearted. And I want to bring into this minute anyone who we know who could use some special care and attention. Because we cannot share out loud, I'd like you to use the chat function, if you can use the chat. If you would like to pause to name anyone you want to hold up today, anyone you want us to hold in our hearts, please put their names in the chat to everyone. Within our community and across the wide world, there are people who are denied their inherent worth and dignity because of who they are as a human being. There are people right now who are frightened and suffering. There are people across our globe dealing with this disease. May the work of our hands and our hearts support and comfort all those who are marginalized or oppressed or at risk, frightened or ill. May we stand with the first responders, with the nurses and the doctors, the chaplains, the paramedics. May we stand with those who are home printing ventilator and respirator valves and protective equipment. May our light shine on the broken places of the world. May we journey in solidarity with all those who fight for equity and justice in human relations. May we remember those who cannot be quarantined at home and who are out working every day in the grocery stores, food delivery services, grocery pickup. May we remember the nurse aides and those who clean the medical facilities. May our light shine on the broken places of the world. May we journey in solidarity with all those who fight for equity and justice in human relations. May all those who are grieving be comforted. May those who are tired find rest. May the broken places in our world be healed. May those who are filled with joy and laughter be abundant. In our hearts, we light 3 candles, one for all the joys and the concerns we have shared, for the names we have written, and a final candle for all of those joys and all of those concerns which are deeply held, but which we have not brought into this space today.
Comfort me, oh my soul. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul.
first reading today is by Reverend Dr. Elizabeth Stevens, entitled Strange Times. These are strange times. There are so many things that feel unfamiliar. We are still figuring out how to protect ourselves and one another. We are still figuring out social distancing. We are still figuring out phone trees and virtual community. We are still figuring out how to weave a safety net secure enough so that no one slips through. Some of us may not know how to manage these strange new technologies. Some of us may not know where we can find toilet paper. Some of us may not know where our next meal or our rent is coming from. None of us know if we will get sick or how sick we will get. None of us know who we will lose. But we know the things that are important. We know how to manage our anxiety. We know that we are resilient as individuals and collectively. We know how to come back to our best selves again and again. We know how to breathe. We know how to be kind. We know how to be generous. We know that we can count on one another. We know that when all of us offer what feels right, what feels good, we always, always wind up with everything we need. We know that this epidemic won't last forever. We know that the world is a beautiful place and that we are meant to rejoice and be glad in every day we are given. Above all, we know that we are held in love, a love whose tensile strength is limitless. It will stretch, it will give, but it will not let us go. May we trust in that love in these strange times and in all times.
Our meditation this morning is some words by a hospital chaplain who's on the front lines, Julie Cecil. Julie Cecil is a hospital chaplain and the affiliated community minister of Westside UU Church in Fort Worth, Texas. And she writes, when you squeeze a tube of toothpaste comes out. You could squeeze any number of things and it'd be pretty obvious what gooey mess would be the result. But what comes out of us when we're squeezed? For me, it's anxiety. I was squeezed today and anxiety came gushing out, but not just any anxiety. It wasn't even about COVID-19, not directly. It was an ancient anxiety, one that was easy to find because it was old and familiar. It was my own inadequacy that I could easily give voice to. It didn't matter in the moment if my speculations were true or even believed. It was familiar. In these uncertain times, it's so easy to find words coming out of our mouths that we don't mean, overreactions that we know in the moment are too strong, or actions or inactions that don't fit who we know ourselves to be. We are being squeezed. Our very spirit and emotions are being pushed on by events and circumstances out of our control. But maybe there's grace in acknowledging that. Maybe there's peace in naming our anxiety and giving voice to them. And maybe sharing the goo that emerges when we find ourselves squeezed has some kind of healing, even if the tightening pressure remains. For whatever is coming out of you, know that you are not alone. May we have compassion for ourselves and understanding of others in this time of pressure bearing down as we are being squeezed. Please join me in a moment of silent thought or meditation or prayer. Thank you.
Our next reading is by Melissa Carvel-Zeimer, entitled Yesterday I Had a Plan. Yesterday I had a plan. I worked so hard to follow the plan, then went to sleep exhausted. This morning I woke up knowing my plan is not sustainable. Even if it were sustainable, the headlines of the day reminded me that this is a time to hold any plan very lightly. I thought of taking time to strategize with new knowledge and new circumstances, but decided to read some poetry instead. Wisława Szymborska reminded me that there are many possibilities. This is a hard time, there is no doubt. Life has changed dramatically for every single one of us. Fear and anxiety are intimate companions. Sorrow, anger, and confusion are streaming worldwide. These things are already true. But Szymborska reminded me we can hold multiple truths, and there are many possibilities. It is possible we will find ways to keep blessing each other through the hard times. Creativity and courage are in abundant supply. Generosity is bubbling up everywhere and inspiring more generosity. Old truths are becoming new again as we remember the power of individual sacrifice for the common good. We are remembering that we are deeply interconnected, that we depend on one another for our very lives. It is possible we will remember these things for a long time to come. Right now, my children are planting seeds. Who knows what the summer will bring? Many things are possible. Beloved, all in all, help us to have faith in life-giving possibilities. May we pay attention and give thanks for the good we find. And may we keep finding ways to give ourselves sustainably to the flourishing of the good. Our centering music today in the Gray Hymnal. The words up on the screen.
All people that on earth do dwell, singing aloud with joyful voice, hearts in exultation swell. Come out together and rejoice. All the goddess gay with praise, approach our joyful life unfold. Thanks and silence, who is for we believe that life is good. Look at the light forevermore. Truth, firmer than our rock hath stood, and shall from age to age endure.
Years ago, there was a phrase that you heard in schools, and when you heard it, you knew you were in trouble. And the phrase was, doesn't make effective use of time. You might see it on your report card, or the teacher might say it, doesn't make effective use of time. And that could mean anything, almost, from I spent the day staring out the window to they read their own book and not the one we told them to they spent the day poking Loretta Bilkins with a pencil until she cried and hit him with a shoe. But what it generally meant was didn't match up to the image that we had in mind for the day, or didn't work the way we thought they should. And parents, when I was a teenager, picked this phrase up from the schools where it was popular. I was sitting at home and I was watching Elvis do Blue Hawaii on the TV on a Saturday morning, and I remember my dad coming in and saying, "That doesn't look like an effective use of your time." And he stood there a minute and he said, "You know, Elvis has left the building." And I laughed and I turned off the TV and went out to do something more effective with my time. We learn early that we have to be busy all the time. We have to be effective, doing it right. In 2014, using data from the US Bureau of Labor Statistics and a survey of workers, Oxford Economics found the average worker is given 21 vacation days a year, but only uses 77% of them. Aaron Talby writes, "Need more proof that Americans work too hard?" A new study finds that last year, 2013, for them, the average US worker took 16 days of paid time off, down from 20.3 workers were taking off between 1976 and 2000. So even though we have the least amount of vacation and off days in the developed world, we don't even take them. And with the internet and social media, it shows us more and more all the things that it thinks we should be doing on our off time when we do take time off. We have videos that tell us how to fix things. We have Pinterest that tells us how to make things and decorate things. Facebook tells us that we have to stay connected, and Instagram tells us just that everybody else's life is fascinating. We don't want to waste time. We want to do all the things. One of my favorite calls to thoughtful living is about doing the things. It's a piece called Pursuit by Stephen Dobbins, and it goes like this. Each thing I rush through so that I can do something else. In such a way do the days pass, a blend of stock car racing and the never-ending building of a Gothic cathedral. Through the windows of my speeding car, I see all that I love falling away, books unread, jokes untold, landscapes unvisited. And why? What treasure do I expect in my future? Rather, it is the confusion of childhood loping behind me, the chaos of the mind, the failure chipping away at each success. Glancing over my shoulder, I see its shape, and so I move forward as someone in the woods might, at hearing the sound of approaching feet. What else can he do but run, rushing blindly down the path, stumbling, struck in the face by sticks? The other ever closer, not yet not really hurrying or even out of breath, just teasing its kill. On a normal week, it's hard to experience what we do. We just rush through it, so afraid we might miss the next thing that we miss this thing. When we sit down to watch that Elvis movie, that silly, dated movie with our popcorn and our drink, we see moving images that fool our eye into believing that that film is all one piece, but it isn't one piece. We took it and stopped it. It's a bunch of stills, one unmoving picture, unmoving moment after the next. It's easy to make life imitate art. Each thing I do, I rush through to do something else. I know I've felt those words to be true. In normal time, when you get behind the wheel of your car, in the movie of your life, it's become so automatic you don't even look up. You're halfway home and you don't know how you got there. When you have 10 minutes to take a shower before the next 73 things you have to do, you barely feel the water. You bought that soap because you thought it smelled so good and you haven't taken the time to smell it in months. It's easy to always be waiting for the next word, your brain rushing ahead on a laundry list of things you need to do and be to get ready. What's after church? What's after lunch? What's after dinner? What are we doing tonight? And the next thing, and the next thing, and the next thing. And we write down our self-care stuff on our calendars and we schedule it in. And when we meditate or paint or read or ski, a lot of us have trouble just being in that moment because we're already thinking about the next thing on our calendar. And then something like these quarantines hits. And we freeze the frame. And we stop. We have to take a breath because all the things on that busy calendar have been disrupted. And we sit and we take another breath. It's important to think only about the now sometimes, to feel your feet in your shoes, to feel the cushion or the couch you're sitting on, to re-experience the texture of your clothing, to be in the moment, not in the next. Releasing the anticipation of what is to come, floating weightless, balanced in your body, content that this moment exists and has inside it inevitably a seed of what is going to come next. And in this moment, you are succeeding at being still and present. Quite honestly, you may cause everything you touch for the rest of this day or this week to burst into flame and sink into a swamp. You may screw it up so bad there's no redemption for it. But in this moment, you are perfectly succeeding. And there will be other moments in which you perfectly succeed, and it's all okay. Elvis's hips aside, perpetual motion is not possible. Muscles tire and eyes close and brains fog. And only you can say if you are spending your time wisely. When I was a little person, maybe 2 or 3, the worst thing in the world used to be my daily nap. At 1:30 every day, I was put in my comfy jammies, and I had to settle down in my bed for that hideous time of inactivity. And every day I cried and kicked and screamed and pouted my lip. I was convinced that if I went to sleep, the most marvelous things in the world must be happening. Somewhere, maybe in the living room, maybe in the dining room, but not where I was. But somewhere out there, unicorns were dancing the cha-cha and handing out free ice cream, and I was being left out. I couldn't understand at that age that if I wanted to run around in the dark, catching fireflies at dusk, I had to be still in the daylight for a little while. You know, what a thought. To move, I had to be still. Right now, in the midst of everything, quarantines and fear and learning new technology and missing being with our friends and our families, some of us really feel like we're failing at pandemic. We're just somehow doing it wrong. I've heard that all week. We keep hearing that little voice in the back of our head from our 4th grade teacher telling us we're not using our time wisely. We ought to be writing more, painting more, cooking fancier. Maybe we tried to make that cake from Pinterest and it honestly looked like a squashed bug and tasted like dirt. We tried to repair the cupboard door and we broke the other hinge. Maybe we have no idea how to homeschool. Or we've never been with our children this long, this consistently, under pressure. Maybe we've realized that we're not smarter than a 5th grader and we have no idea how to do 6th grade math. Maybe we just don't want to write the great American novel or put pants on when we're scared to death. Sometimes you just can't keep up with the movie flashing by. Breathe. Whatever your situation, it's okay to be too scared, too tired, too disorganized to be an achiever right now. It's also okay to be amazing. If you're writing the great American novel, if you're painting the best art you ever have, that's amazing. That's okay too. But if all you could do today was eat Cheetos and keep the kids from going feral, if all you could do is make sure your doggy got to go out or pet your cat, if all you could do was sit and cry, that's okay. You aren't failing if you're struggling. You're not missing a chance. You're succeeding at being alive. You're succeeding at keeping your nose above water, even if only for intervals. You're succeeding at breathing, at still being. Judy Collins wrote a song called I've Learned to Love the Fallow Way, and she talks about there's a rich and dark and fallow time each year when motion is frozen and storms are stilled and the land is ready, but it's still empty and waiting. If you need to, let this be that time for you. It's the darkness and emptiness and rest that lets spring start again with all the color and the blaze of life. Everything in life is a cycle and a balance, summer and winter, hot and cold, life and death, color and blackness, motion and stillness. Without one, the others don't exist. In the Hebrew Bible, there's a good story at the beginning of Genesis 1, about how the world was created by the Hebrew God. And it says that everything wasn't formed and there was darkness everywhere. And the Hebrew God said, well, let there be light in the darkness. And he separated out the darkness and the light. But that God didn't destroy the darkness. He didn't throw it away and say it had no value. As human beings, we're called to bring light into the world, to help to fix and heal all that's broken. But nobody ever said we can't take a break, grab some popcorn and a soda, and sit down to listen to Hound Dog or Blue Suede Shoes, or maybe just dance across the carpet. You cannot see light without darkness. Darkness becomes the canvas on which the light creates. We are living chiaroscuro, living artworks made out of highlights on a dark background. Stillness refreshes us. Darkness is not the end. Deep silence lets us hear the symphony of the universe. You are not failing. You are breathing. Dare to take a pause when you need to. Dare to breathe. Dare to simply be. Blessed be.
Thank you, Amy. The flame is extinguished, but not our hope for the future, our courage in the face of crisis, or the love we share in all the world. Our final song today is number 148, Let Freedom Span Both East and West. Please sing along as you can.
love was so and was. In the universe of fellowship, out of my birth. In beauty, wonder everywhere, let us communion and find. Compassion be upon us, like in human kind. Beyond the barriers of grace, of color, class, or creed, let us make friendship human blood, our common faith and need. Any steadfast will meet and share, and souls shall build their north. One love and commonwealth of God, all on earth.
The service has ended and your service begins again. Go in peace to love and save the world, but please do it from home whenever possible. Peace, ashe, and may it be so.
Soul of truth, eternal goodness, so dear with us as we part. Fill our minds with joy and never keep us just and pure in heart. Strengthen us for daily duty. Guide us by the inward light. Hallowed be each coming morning. Calm and peaceful each night. Amen.
Thank you, Bruce.